All right, Appalachian State business majors, welcome. Now, I want you to think of this less as a lecture and more as a professional briefing. We're going to be dissecting strategic pricing, and this is a critical competency you will use your entire career, whether you end up at Bank of America in Charlotte or a startup right here in the high country. Honestly, mastering this stuff is non-negotiable. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to move methodically through these 6 core objectives. We'll start with the real basics, the role of price, and then we'll build all the way up to some complex B2B pricing strategies. So let's dive in. So we're starting with the absolute fundamentals. What exactly is price? And, more importantly, why is it arguably the most powerful and flexible lever you can pull in the entire marketing mix? Well, formally, price is just a value exchanged for a product. But in reality, its impact goes way deeper than that. Price sends these powerful signals to your customers about quality, about value, and about your brand's position in the entire marketplace. It is never just a number. And this slide, this is huge. It really breaks down the profit equation and highlights something absolutely fundamental. Just think about it for a second. Your product, your distribution, your promotion, those are all cost centers. Price is the only element in the whole marketing mix that actually generates revenue. It's the engine for your profit. Pretty much everything else is an expense. So let's make this real for a second. Imagine you're a manager down at Lowe's headquarters in Mooresville or maybe over at Hanes Brands in Winston-Salem. How could you strategically use price, raising it or lowering it, not just to change your revenue, but to completely change what customers think and feel about an entire product line? It's a really interesting strategic question. All right, so that idea leads us perfectly into our next section, where we're going to explore the 2 main arenas you'll be competing in. Either you're competing on price, or you're competing on basically everything else. So what you're seeing here is a really critical trade-off. Competing on price is super fast and flexible, right? But the danger is you get sucked into these price wars that just destroy profits for everybody. Now, non-price competition, that's slower, it's more expensive, but it builds this defensible moat of customer loyalty around your brand. And you can see this playing out right here in the Appalachian region every single day. You've got Salisbury-based Food Lion, which often competes super aggressively on price. Then you have Harris Teeter, based down in Matthews, which is all about the shopping experience, those unique products, the service. Both are successful, but their competitive strategies could not be more different. Okay, now we're getting into the real meat of it, the analytical core of pricing strategy. This is all about using data to understand how your market is actually going to respond when you change your price. Now this is fascinating. The curve on the left is what you'd expect, right? It's the standard model. As price goes down, the quantity people want goes up. But look at the curve on the right for prestige goods. It completely defies that logic. Notice that as the price increases from P1 to P2, the quantity demanded also increases. A higher price actually makes the product more desirable. Wild, right? This whole idea of elasticity is absolutely critical. Demand for something like electricity is highly inelastic, so a company like Charlotte's Duke Energy can forecast its revenue pretty accurately because the price changes won't drastically change how much we use. But then you look at something like an RV. Demand for that is highly elastic, making their sales forecasts way more sensitive to any price shifts. You have to know which game you're playing. So we've got the market demand side down, but now we have to bring it back in-house and look at the company's own financial structure. This is where we connect what the market wants with what the company can actually afford, all to find a profitable price. Look, you can't even begin to set a price until you have an absolutely ironclad command of your costs. You have to know precisely which costs are fixed, like your rent, and which ones are variable, like raw materials. And these are not just accounting terms. They are the fundamental building blocks of any sound pricing model. This graph right here, this is a core principle of microeconomics, profit maximization. Your sweet spot, the optimal quantity to produce, is right there at that intersection where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. If you produce even one more unit past that point, it literally costs you more to make it than you earn from selling it. Finding this point is crucial for any manager. Think of the break-even point as your absolute floor. It's the minimum number of units you have to sell at a certain price just to cover your costs, so you don't lose any money. It's really the foundational calculation for figuring out if any product or venture is even financially viable. And this is exactly how you put this theory into practice. Forget about giant corporations for a minute. Let's think about a great local startup like 321 Coffee down in Raleigh.
How would you take this break-even formula and use it to figure out the absolute minimum price they'd have to charge for a new latte to make it worth their while?
All right, so we've looked inside the company at costs and profit. Now let's zoom way out and look at the really complex web of factors, both internal and external, that shape every single pricing decision you'll ever make. And as this diagram makes super clear, you just don't make pricing decisions in a vacuum. It's a strategic choice that sits at the center of at least 8 key factors, everything from your own internal goals and costs to external forces like your competition and, of course, legal issues. A winning strategy has to account for all of them. Now, a really critical takeaway here is that you have to understand your customer's mindset. Are they price conscious, like a Family Dollar shopper? Or are they maybe more prestige sensitive? This orientation totally dictates how much pricing freedom you have. And on top of that, you always have to deal with their internal reference price, what they expect a product like yours to cost based on their past experiences. And this is a big one. Your pricing strategy has to live within some very strict legal lines. Price fixing, deceptive pricing, predatory pricing, these aren't just bad strategies, they are flat out illegal. And let me be clear, as a future manager, a violation here carries severe consequences for your company and for you personally. Okay, for our last section here, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about consumer markets, but now let's just touch on the unique pricing dynamics you find in business-to-business or B2B deals. Yeah, in the B2B world, that list price you see, it's almost never the real price. It's really just a starting point for a negotiation. As you can see here, there's this whole complex series of discounts that are used as strategic tools, all to encourage specific behaviors from your business customers, things like paying their invoice early or buying in bulk. And for a major North Carolina company like Martin Marietta Materials, which is shipping heavy stuff like gravel and cement all over the country, believe me, this distinction is not some minor detail. Whether the price is FOB destination or FOB factory is a critical part of every single price quote they send out. So to wrap this all up, let's bring it all back to a product you know very, very well. You. Your career is the most important product you will ever manage. So based on everything we've talked about today, how will you use these principles of both price and non-price competition to establish, communicate, and ultimately capture your value out there in the marketplace? That's your final strategic challenge.